All right, ladies and gentlemen. So we have Derek Summers. He is president, CEO. Titles are interesting of Dallas Card Investors. And Collectible approached us a few weeks ago. They wanted to do an Innovators series, just sharing things about the hobby, the industry, that could benefit the community. Right before the Mint Collective in January, we want to do this kind of series, educating people. And I couldn't have thought of anyone better than Derek Summers because we've interacted a little bit over the last year. We've had the privilege of meeting recently. So I'm really excited to get to know you better on the show and to get to know Dallas Card Investors better on the show. And that's probably a great place to kind of kick it off. You know, for the people out there, the few people that don't know, they know the brand, but they might not know what Dallas Card Investors do. Can you give us, that, 60-second, 90-second kind of preview into what Dallas Card Investors are?
Yeah. So simple and foremost is we just consider ourselves to be a premier grading company inside of this space. We started previous to this and used to be a submission group for PSA and Beckett, and have kind of broken away from being the submitter into being someone that will go to shows, get cards into our office, help people out with grading of their cards and understanding of it, and what they choose to do from there, whether you're seeing more and more sales on eBay or you're seeing people cut those cards out and take them to a different grading company. And once they know the grade from us, perfectly fine either way. But our goal was to become a premier grading company in the space.
I know we'll talk more about that, but I see posts, and I think the one came out today. We know that there's 18 grading companies in the space, and that they all can't last.
Mm-hmm.
From my experience, though, there's not a single grading company that started as a group submitter, right? And had the experience of not only seeing cards, prepping cards, and also getting the results back from grading companies, and they could check, oh, we said that this would be a 9, and it came back a 9, right? That full feedback loop, none of the grading companies that I know have done that. And I think there's a tremendous amount of benefit. Can you talk a little bit as to how, your group submission experience helped you get to where you are now and why it'll make you successful in the future?
Yeah, so great question. So when we started, it started as simple as someone saying, hey, should I submit this card? Is it in good enough condition? And we kept building our background for that, and we kept tracking all that information over and over the course of thousands and thousands of cards. Once we did that, we could find out the way that our accuracy rate was working was better than 90% accuracy rate with both PSA and Beckett. As we continued to build that, then the level of trust, because trust and reputation is huge in this industry, continued to grow from there. And so as we got more exposure into the hobby, then more people would start to trust us with their, higher dollar cards, lower dollar cards, whatever it might be. And we were able to continue to kind of build a reputation. You talked about how none of the 18 grading companies are out there started as group submitters. One thing, reputation has been so important to us, and it's why we didn't jump into becoming a grading company 2 years ago when we started. We didn't want to just launch a slab and go be that. And we've seen great success for ourselves. And a lot of these companies, you said, have seen great success as well. So it's not a knock on the people that did it a different way. It just wasn't the way that we wanted to do it. We wanted to build a reputation. For a long time, we wanted our faces to be known in the hobby or in the industry, depending on what we want to talk about. But we wanted to do that for a while before we would go anywhere further. And we feel like we've done that for a while, did that for almost 2 years now. I've transitioned into not doing the submission anymore, but simply being out in the public, being at shows, and bringing submissions into our office just for our own internal grading, the way that we do it, and being able to provide that as something back to the industry that's a little different than the major grading companies are doing at the moment.
I love that. And you, just so people don't know it, I'll pass it to you, Cage. Premier grading, $10, and respectable turnaround times, right? That's also a huge differentiator, right? You see all these grading companies, 30, 40, $50, and that's it within their right. What I love about you guys is that $10 price point. It was a big deal for a lot of people. Cage always talks about the little man in the hobby being able to color up. And that price point does leave meat on the bone for the investor and allows you guys to run a legitimate business. So you keep interchanging hobby industry. I think we all do that, right?
Yep.
Some people still want it to be a hobby. Some people are excited it's an industry. Some people kind of toe the line. Any thoughts on that? Why use industry? Why use hobby?
I think that we feel as collectors, right? I've been a collector for years of lots of different things, whether it was sports cards when I was a kid, comic books, watches. Would love to collect cars as I continue to progress down in life. So as a collector, we want the thing that we care about the most to be a hobby. We want it to be like private to ourselves as this little thing that we think that we hold and cherish. And on the individual basis, which is what I think that we do, the individual, I call it sometimes hand-to-hand combat, right? The one-to-one relationship. It's a hobby between those people. But when we talk about it as a whole, Dallas Card Investors as a business, what we do from a business perspective, I have to treat that as an industry. There's too much money, people, time, businesses, other things that are involved in what we do, all collectively, that it has to be considered an industry at this point. But on the individual personal level, the Derek Summers of the world, it's still a hobby. So it's kind of this weird mix.
Sounds like a porn name, by the way, if I'm allowed to say that. Derek Summers. Sounds like you should be in like adult films. But here you go. I mean, I haven't spoke for 6 minutes. It's a great name. I mean,
weird.
It's a great name.
I hate when people bring up stuff from like when I was a child, but there used to be this thing.
Really? That's where you go? Adult films?
No, hold on. This is funny though.
This
is funny.
Weird here.
It was. If I remember right from being younger, it was your first name and the street that you lived on.
The street.
Which actually made me Derek Splitstone.
Middle name.
Middle
name. Street.
Okay. William Splitstone, which I think is even more poor name than anything.
So here's what's funny. I grew up in Staten Island on a street spelled G-E-T-Z.
Got it.
So Getz.
Yep.
I had the best name ever. 𝐻𝐴𝐾𝐾𝐾𝐵. Whatever.
Cage gets worse.
That's awesome.
So here you go, man. So I mean, I don't know how I top the whole porn conversation. Sorry, Collectible and the Mint Collective for that one. But hey, it is what it is. We are doing an Innovator series, right? And so why you are right there in the very small list of people we wanted to talk to is because bringing innovation to the hobby, changing the game, changing it previously and then changing it going forward. You're going to have to be able to adapt to things, right? And we've seen a very dynamic hobby industry, whatever you want to call it, over the last 24 months where people have come and they've gone based on the changing environment of the hobby. I even see it in what we do. When the hobby was going crazy, there were like six sports card podcasts on my block, but they're all gone. The first sign of a little bit of a downtick in the hobby, the first sign of, wow, cards are going down a little bit, and 3/4 of the people who jumped in have disappeared. A lot of podcasts no longer with us. There are still a few, right? But none as good as us. I use that as an example, right? Because podcast came, podcast went, right? Group subbers, right? You were a group subber, right? Group subbers came out of the grading boom. Out of the fact that everybody wanted to grade with, let's just say, with PSA, right? Everybody wanted to grade with PSA. Beckett, if there's, $1 million companies, everyone wanted to grade with PSA, all right? Then, and we were worried about this because the group subbers were very reliant on the grading companies. The grading company, PSA, closed. They stopped taking cards in. And a lot of the group subbers disappeared. Some of them pivoted. Some of them innovated, right? I put you into that category because, and we're not talking about a long time ago here. We're talking about, within the last year, right? So we pivot, and now utilizing the knowledge that you have, right? We're going to pivot. We have all of this data. We know we are good at what we've done here. We have this. We are now going to, nature abhors a vacuum. We're going to fill that void, right? There is a need for people to have something to do with their cards. When the grading companies closed, a lot of grading companies opened. Age at 18, I think it's 19. I made a joke at Bleecker Trading yesterday, and somebody was like, "Yeah, it's actually 20. I opened one in my car on the ride here." But a lot of grading companies. My question for you, as an innovator, right, not as a porn star, you can answer it both ways, however you like, but as an innovator, right, is PSA comes back, PSA opens. Right? And the floodgates are open and they have, $20 subs or whatever it's going to be, right? A lot of podcasts disappeared. A lot of group subbers disappeared. I imagine that a lot of the grading companies that have come up in the last year will disappear. You are an innovator. You've already pivoted once. What's the pivot, or is there one? Is it, this is our niche? No matter what, there's always going to be a need for this raw card review type of grading at this price level, and none of them are good. Tell me what happens in 3 months when PSA opens. Let's just call it that way.
Yeah. So I think it's a great question, but
it's a long one, but that's what I do.
Yeah, no, but it's spot on. I think the big question is, why do all those companies tend to leave when these things happen? Mm-hmm. And it's usually because they haven't built themselves properly off of the correct foundation in order to be able to sustain growing up, right? And I believe that you're going to see potential consolidation either through buyouts, which could happen, right? If whoever it is decides to buy out a couple of the other ones to take their customer base and stuff, that might happen. You'll see that to a certain degree. And then you're going to see some other ones that are going to fold. And then I think that you're going to see a couple that may go, I'm going to call dormant for lack of a better term, right? They get smaller, but stay there because they just have passion for the hobby and they just want to be in it regardless.
Right.
I think that that's what's going to happen. So the 19 is going to become 11.
Yep.
Of those 11, 2 are still going to be at the top. Maybe 3 are going to sit towards the top. 2 are going to go somewhat dormant, right? They're going to just kind of be the very sleeping child that kind of sits on the bottom, and that's okay. And then you're going to have a bunch of people that are in the middle who are going to continue to battle and fight for positioning and space. What do I see DCI doing over the course of the next 12 months? Like we'll even talk like all of 2022.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I would love to see DCI at some point get into the full space, not just what we do, but do we eventually become a slabbing company? Do we eventually become a full grading company? The conversations are there. We get asked about it all the time. The question becomes for us, is it the right move and is it on brand for what we've spent time building? Does it lend itself to the reputation, or does it come across as, oh, there goes DCI to become number 26? And then when the consolidation happens, do they fold like everyone else? Which means they fold everything. They lose their card grading. They lose their slabbing. They lose all of it at one time. Or do we actually sit in the space that we're in? And I would tell you that we don't really know what the perfect answer is for that yet, because we still need to do a lot more exploration into, where's the best place to go to. Where we're at right now is build reputation, provide great customer service, continue to get those cards back. Andrew, you talked about getting them back quick. Most of the card orders are coming back to you within a week. And
That's
if
amazing.
you just at a show, you're getting them back within usually a couple hours if you're seeing us at a show. So that stuff is really important to us. We can't do anything if we can't do that right.
Can I tell you what I see?
Sure.
And maybe it doesn't go this way. Maybe you're the owner of the business might not want to hear this, but the complaint that we got from most of the grading companies about the backlog and the inability to get the backlog out. And by the way, I still have an order I mailed in October that they claim they received I mailed in August. They claim they received in October, PSA. And
of 2020,
logged it in.
Just clarify that this was last year.
2020.
Yeah.
Logged it in January, right? So received October 14th, logged in January. That is on his way back to me. That is I'm still waiting on that. So that's
good, because we still have ones logged in 2020 that we still don't have back yet either. So our goal is by Christmas that we have all the 2020 orders out.
That would be nice.
To happen.
We had some group subs also, the same thing. But here's my thought, and it's just my brain going crazy. Tell me why this can't be the case, right? The grading companies have told us the reason for the backlog is that you can't just pull a grader off the street, and that there's training that goes into it, and that PSA's reputation is such that, or Beckett's reputation is such, or SGC, CGC, these guys, their reputation is such that they just can't slap a number on it because it's got to be graded. There's a process. There's a whole deal. I believe that coming out of this, there will always be a need for the product that you're putting out, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like someone giving an estimate to someone before they buy their house, right? Sure. Before they sell their house. It's like, I don't want to sell my house. Or, well, I'll come out and you pay me, $5. And I'll tell you, this is what the house should work. Here's comps. Here's what it is. Blah, blah. I'll do an evaluation of your house before you actually go and sell it. Before you actually go and put the money to a broker and the whole 9 yards. It's one of those kind of things, right? Like, free estimate, free valuation. I can envision a situation where if your numbers are what we think they are, where you guys are 95% accurate to Beckett and PSA's grading, where you're a pre-grader, but a pre-grader with actual, like, Beckett will allow people to sub and maybe fast track DCI pre-graded cards.
Yeah.
Because you have what they claim they don't have. You have what they claim they can't find, which is somebody who is good at grading. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe you're not, maybe you're, maybe your experts are in modern cards or whatever it may be. But couldn't you picture, Andrew, couldn't you picture a situation where Beckett has a backlog, right? And, one of the things they could do instead of bringing in a value sub is bringing in a fast track sub for something that's already been graded by DCI, right? Because they know, and they've looked at the DCI cards that are out there, that DCI's grades are legit. They're not just slapping a number on them or whatever it is. And when you get your card pre-graded for $10 in DCI and then send it to Beckett, it's 1/3 of the wait time, because they don't need 14 people to look at it. They don't need to go through the whole process. It's just a matter of, okay, well, they did it. Take a quick look. Yeah, it's right. There's nothing great. Boom, slab it. I'm not saying it, it's as easy as all that, but couldn't you picture a situation where it's almost like outsourcing that initial grade, that initial review? As long as they have the data, as long as they're showing that these are legitimate grades and that this is something that's, somebody's got, an actual eye on and it's not baloney, you send that card saver in. It's basically a sub prep. You're basically taking some of the the staff that Beckett or PSA would have to put in under their own umbrella and taking it off them and allowing to streamline the process. Something.
Yeah. I think that's what we're doing for the average consumer, which is great for them, right? Yes, they still have the wait times and all that kind of stuff, but at least we're taking some of that process off the average consumer. Because I know that we have people that are customers of ours who have a very keen eye, who spend time and they analyze their cards and stuff, and still bring them to us just for a second review. Because even with PSA opening back their $100 service, I think here in a couple of days, right? Still $100 a card is $100 a card, no matter what you have, right? And if you've started to look at a lot more values and do some analysis on it, a lot of even PSA 9s right now have started to sell at or below almost raw, because everyone's still chasing the 10 because the upside's so big. Well, that puts grading into a really funky spot, right? So if you have a $250 card that you're going to spend $100 for grading, and it's only going to be worth $200 if you get a 9, it's like a massive loss for people at that point. So even with a really good eye, a lot of people just want a second opinion, which is perfectly fine. That's what we're here for. And we don't have to rule out a lot of your cards for it to be a financially advantageous situation for you. If you send us 10 cards and spend $100 with us, if we were out one of the 10 that you were going to get graded, that's the wash, right? That's the wash point at there. Because now you spend $900 to do your grading, the $100 with us, that's the same $1,000 you're going to spend. But if we can find 2 and we can explain to you why those 2 would get the lower grade than what you were looking for, we saved you money all day.
So, Cage, I agree with your idea. I see exactly what you're saying. I want to ask a very basic question.
Like a logistic.
Yeah. What is the role of a grading company? Very basic question, but I would like to know this, and I would like to know it from your standpoint, because I know that there's probably a few answers to this question.
The role of a grading company to me is to provide validity and value, or perceived value, I guess I would say, to whatever item. I'm not even going to use sports cards. I'm going to say whatever item it is, right? Whether you're grading comic books, whether you're grading art, whether you're grading anything, it is to be able to provide a professional evaluation, valuation, any of that for the item in which is being graded. So obviously in cards, we're talking about that. We're looking at, all of the condition of it to be able to say card A is cleaner, better, less damaged than card B. And so therefore card A should carry a higher value. I think that it's nothing more than that. I also think that it's extremely important when it comes down to insurance purposes, values of collections, like those types of things. I think that there's a great ability there too.
Cage, do you want to add anything? Do you have your take?
What a grading company making a market, right? So, listen, grading companies, if they wear hats, I think that the role of a grading company is to take what you put in front of them and authenticate it and assign a grade. That's a grading company. Right now, ancillary to that, they keep their data in the form of population reports, registries, you name it. But I don't believe, I never have, that a grading company sets out to and has a job to make markets. I do not believe that they are creating false scarcity. I do not believe that they are looking at how many of a card they have graded when they grade it. Now, grading standards and information do change over time for specific items and cards as more information comes out, right? And there is some fungibility there. You know, it is magic that the Derek Jeter 93 SP foil has no 10s because at some point in time, or I want to say because they changed their standard for grading it. A lot of the companies did measurement-wise because of factory defects and how they were cut. There's always that, you know, little flexibility there that allows a market to be made in a certain card. But I believe, and I could be naive here, Andrew. I mean, I think the numbers might say I am, but I believe their role is to authenticate and assign a grade to what you put in front of them, the four corners of that card, and not look at anything else.
So let's use the Jordan PSA 10 Fleer 1986 card, right? You've seen some cards that were graded in the early days that were graded 10s that a lot of people with a good eye would say those are 9s and 8s, right? And now the 10s are being graded much more harshly. Is there something there that the grading company is not scared, but they know that the market will be up in arms if they give out too many 10s, which will devalue the card? Do you think that they should care about that at all? Do you think that they're aware of that at all?
I don't think that they should, but I think that they are. You know, there's a number of examples. Like, I think that if I remember correctly, the most graded card that's out there with total population report is the 89 Upper Deck Griffey, which I think only has like 400. I'm making it up. Maybe it's 2,000. I think it's about 85,000 that are graded and only 400, 2,000, somewhere in that extremely small population amount is in a 10. Now, we know the card is notoriously off center and all sorts of stuff like that, but the question is, back to your point, Cage, are there some 9s that should be 10s? Are there some 10s that should be 8s? If I were to go get 100 of them today out of sets or however I want to get them, right? What are my grades going to look like? Would I get any 10s? You know, what does that look like? And you should, theoretically, if you just want to use pop reports, say, okay, if there's 85,000, I should be able to submit 850, 1% of that, and get 1% of 10s and the other percent of 9s. I don't think it'll work because I think that that's another card where I think that standards may have changed around that card.
I have a lot of empathy for grading companies. I ask those questions because I see how they have to toe the line of both, right? Mm-hmm. They have to grade honorably and fairly, but they also have to be aware when there's like a market boom, how what they grade will affect the market, right? And they don't want to flood the supply. I think we had Card Collector on back last year, or maybe this year, and he said, back in the 90s was the junk wax era. Now it's the junk slab era, right? And it's just interesting to watch it play out. And I have a lot of empathy for grading companies. I think they all do them differently too, right? It's important to remember each grading company is its own entity, and they all have their own kind of principles and values and things like that. Derek, what are you collecting now? Just out of curiosity.
Right now, I've actually transitioned to doing a little bit of comic books as well, just back from when I was a kid, some of the like early 90s Spider-Man and some stuff like that. I do have, a number of cards. I've opened up a little bit of wax recently, opened up a lot of Pokemon when the new Celebrations dropped. So, which is my first Pokemon. I was never into Pokemon as a kid.
It's a fun one to open. You get some really cool hits, throwback
hits.
Yeah,
you get some really cool stuff. So I kind of learned.
If you ask one of our fans who would care about Pokemon, Fortnite's where it's at.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of Fortnite cards come through too. So those Black Knights go for a lot of money. That's for sure. So that's really about it. That's really about the only thing for me. For me personally, I don't have like a player that I'm really attached to. I will tell you like my personal struggle with in life but I'm going to continue to support them, which is I am a Detroit Lions fan. It's been a long time, as in forever, since we've been extremely relevant, but I do continue to support them. So
best running back of all time. If you ask my co-host,
I will definitely say that. So
Easily.
I don't think that switching Goff for Stafford was a great move, but hey, we'll see what happens.
Listen, if nothing else, the Detroit fan base gets more excited than anybody else for the draft.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
You always have a good time
to take first place in something, so we're going to take it in draft picks.
you always seem to have a good time with the draft.
Now that
Calvin Johnson, man, that'd be a nice one to collect. A little Megatron.
Megatron. Oh God, he was amazing. So,
all you need to know about the Detroit football team is when they do get stars, those stars retire early.
100%. Yeah, that's all that we do. So, or somehow trade them away. So, so Detroit's known for a lot of things. So I just want to throw this one out too. Potentially one of the best draft classes ever in basketball. We also did a phenomenal pick there, which would have been the 03-04 draft. And we got second overall pick and chose Darko. That was really good. So I'm glad that we took him over Bosch or Wade. So
how do you guys justify that up there?
Sorry, what was that?
How do you guys justify that? What's the narrative? Like, just you shoot.
You can't justify it. It can't be justified. It's just got to be in your blood. Like, that's just got to be you. So, yeah.
The beef stew. What do they put in that palace? What do they put in the water there? Why is everyone trying to fight at the malice in the palace type of thing? I know they changed the name. It's like something else now.
Yeah. I don't live there anymore. I've been gone for about 10 years now. But so I think. So I grew up around the area. My mom was actually a Detroit Pistons cheerleader back in the day, like before I was born, right before I was born. So that kind of
your name's making more sense now.
Yeah, that led me to being a Pistons fan, and then again, just kind of being from the area, just kind of made me into Pistons fan, Lions fan. Not huge into baseball, so I'm not a big Tigers fan, but yeah.
That was a tough team. That 04 Pistons team was tough. Like
yes. Yeah. So if you look at any time the Pistons have won the bad boy era or the early 2000s era, they win it with defense. It's all about defense. I mean, they were holding I think the average points were 78 points a game against them during that time. Not in today's modern basketball.
Yeah, kids listening that's unwatchable.
Right. They're like,
unwatchable.
Wait, at halftime, right? No, not at halftime for the whole game. If the Pistons rise up again, I think that they'll do it with defense again. Because no one plays.
What did you think about the Cade Cunningham pick? So I'll leave it at that. I don't want to lead. You a fan? You a believer?
Yeah. No, I think that he's going to be phenomenal. So,
wow, phenomenal.
I like Cade. I think he's going to play well. So I've only watched a little bit of games so far this year, but I think that Cade's going to do well.
So I digress a little, but I do want to shed a little bit of light on this. The people behind Dallas Card Investors aren't just COVID hit, I want to start a podcast, or COVID hit, I want to start a business. These are serial entrepreneurs.
Correct.
Could you talk a little bit about that? It's funny. Derek and I actually met through this business group called the 𝐺𝐼𝐵 Syndicate, that's run by Andy Frisella, Ed Milet, two very respectful businessmen. And it's a businessman's community, right? It's one of those communities where you ask the difficult questions that seasoned entrepreneurs have experienced, and it's kind of worth its weight in gold, right? There's so much bad advice. You just want that little bit of good advice. So talk to me a little bit about how the founding team, the people behind it, are serial entrepreneurs. This isn't their first gig. This isn't their first rodeo.
Yeah. So when I met you originally through that, and sometimes you would make a post in that group and you'd get rougher things than you had expected, right? You thought that you're kind of special and you're really not. But
he's not talking about me. He's talking about everyone.
Yeah.
I think he said about you.
So we started this conversation just around sports cards in general, but that was how it kind of went. And then Bradley, who's actually our company founder, has been a serial entrepreneur. He owned a sports card store, back in the early 2000s. He's been in this world for quite a while, in and out of it type of a thing, right? Like most people started getting back in. I think he started getting back in about 2017. So before the pandemic, not a pandemic baby to this situation. I've been in a number of different things. Most recently before this, I was in recruiting. So I did 7 years in the recruiting world. And so that just teaches you, customer service, how to work with people, how to draw people in, right? That stuff can become incredibly important in any type of business that you do. So that was where my background came in. Jason, who's been on your guys' podcast recently, is our head grader. And eats, sleeps, breathes more than anybody else in this building, sports cards. That's what he loves. He's massive on Twitter. He's got a really good following there. So that is his world. That's the thing that he loves. So you ended up with a bunch of people between sports card passion and hobby mixed with entrepreneurship. And it's just worked, right? This is how we got started. And now our team continues to grow, almost 15 people now within our team, and just continuing to build it out.
So this year Panini released, and by the way, is Panini close to you guys? You're in Dallas, right?
Yeah. Actually, so Beckett is less than a mile from our office, and then Panini's here in Dallas as well. Dallas is kind of becoming the card capital of the world. Correct.
And anyone you ask, they'll say the Dallas card show is the place to be, and it happens a few times a year, right?
Yeah, it typically every 2 months. The next one's coming up in mid-January, so 2 weeks before the Mint Collective. So
you have the Dallas Card Show, Panini America's right there, Beckett right around the corner, and DCI. I mean, it's kind of the card capital of the world. And I'm sure there's a few LCSs there. There's got to be a
there's a number of LCSs in the area as well.
Have you visited everyone?
Not everyone. We've been to a few of them, but not everyone. There's not as many as you would think. It's not like there's 40 in the town. It's probably more like 6 to 8, and we've been to a number of them. So it's still a good amount, but you have to understand the size of Dallas, right? Everything's bigger in Texas.
I ask you because Cage was, he went to a show this weekend and he went to 3 LCSs as well. And it was so each one was a unique experience, right? One was just crushing it. The other one was kind of hanging in there. And the other one is kind of like bare bones. It looks like the Raccoon NFT project. What would you say the future of LCSs looks like? What would make a successful LCS 2025, 2022?
I mean, product's going to be the big one, right? And we know that the 2025, 2026, the Fanatics deal. So that's going to be really important, whether or not the LCS can even get the right product to be able to bring the people in. I think that we're in so much more of a digital world at this point that they're going to have to transition from the shop they had, some of these in the 80s and 90s during a previous boom, and has kind of been on life support for a number of years. They're going to have to make sure that they're getting into everything that we do digitally. That's going to be extremely important. If they can do that, I think it's good. I think that if an LCS can create a really good online experience for people, whether that's breaking, whether that's podcasts like this, whether that is creating community with the people around them, that's going to be extremely important as well, because that is your local place, right? That's why we call it that. But if you're not connected into the local community, it's going to be really, really tough to last as everything continues to evolve into the world that we're in today.
I'm glad you brought up digital because, at first glance, you would think digital will put you guys out of business. Is that the case? How do you guys view digital? And I say that tongue in cheek, by the way.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't see, so the physicality of the card creates a situation where today, right, with the standards of what we have, that digital won't put us out of business. Now, could someone eventually come up with a app on your phone where you're, twisting and moving the card and stuff? Yeah, maybe those types of things could happen, but that's going to take quite a while. But in general, the big thing for us is we're trying to get a lot more transparency in what we do out into the digital world. So we want to start to do things. We just had a meeting today. We're probably going to start a Twitch stream of our grading where, once a week or whatever it might be, 30, 45 minutes, 2 hours, however much we feel like, we're just going to have the camera mounted over top of our grader and let them go through the cards that they're grading and talk about grades and what they are. Just so that way people can see nothing more than process, right? It doesn't matter whose cards they are. It's just simply why do they do what they do, right? Yep. Why are they giving it the grade they give it? So that's one of the things. So that's kind of more evolution into the digital world. And I think that there's a number of things to do there.
I just want to add to that because that last part, it seems so subtle, but it's a bigger deal that people realize. As you're going through that Twitch stream, graders have experience on things that we don't. And I'll give you guys an example. So I bought a lot of Kobe Topps 138 rookie cards. And on the front of that card, it's a black background, but there's a lot of little white dots.
Yep.
And some of mine got dinged for surface and others didn't.
Sure.
Right? And which dots are supposed to be there? Which of the dots are flashing cameras versus which of the dots are, you know, kind of a surface scratch?
Yep.
Little subtle stuff. Cage, you're looking at me like I'm crazy, but I graded a ton of these cards.
Oh, I think it's very smart. It's very
which ones
smart
are
to
right?
do it.
Which ones are?
Because we make jokes about grading companies, right? How it's like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, no one goes in, no one comes out. It's, you know, it's behind the curtain, and you're never going to know. And then when your card comes, you're like, a 5. Why?
Right.
What's the story? Like, you never get any type of an explanation, never get any kind of background. And while a Twitch stream showing some random person's cards being graded by a grader, it's highly unlikely you're going to be able to tune into it and see your own cards being graded.
Correct.
It still gives a lot of a behind the scenes of, you know, what are we looking for? What's the process? You know, what is the person doing with it? You know, what, and, you know, the way the world is working, you know, Andrew likes to bring up digital a lot. The reason why digital works is because it's all out in the open, right? That's what's cool about blockchain and those kind of things, right? You want to know where it's been. You want to know what it is. It's there. You can't hide it. You want to know what somebody owns? Go ahead and spy on their wallet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not a lot of like, oh, just don't pay attention to what's going on over here. Well, you guys, you know, that it definitely will, you know, bolster an already good reputation if you're not doing things behind a veil. So I like the idea. I think it's cool.
I mean,
I think
I think that's the reason why, you know, you send to a company, you get back a 9, you wonder why they got a 9. But then how many people crack them out and send it back again, they get a 10 the second time? It's like, well, if the standard was the standard, then it wouldn't be able to switch from a 9 to a 10. But there's always some variance in there, right? And without actually knowing why your card got it, I think people just randomly crack out 9s to send them back to 10s. I know I've done it personally, and then they come back as 10s. You're like, okay, cool. Well, now I got that. So let's go ahead and do whatever we're going to do, sell it or keep it. But it happens. That's just part of the industry. And I don't see how that kind of stuff can go away until there's real transparency in why the card got the grade it got.
My favorite Loch Ness Monster story is how many times pristine BGS 10 gets bumped to get a black label. Like, if you guys heard some of the stats on, for the percentages are very small, but some people, like, if the card is worth it, they'll send that like 20, 30 times.
Correct.
And it's really interesting. Like, I just think that's kind of fascinating. Before we let you go, we could keep these 30 minutes or so because the Innovator series, we want people, first off, sponsored by Collectible, but here's the real kicker. Winter in Vegas? Are you kidding me? Like, what else do you need to hear, right? Yeah. Now we have great people there. Cage is going to be there. We got our crews going to be there. We've got awesome people. DCI, Jason, Derek, you're going to be there as well, right?
I will. Yeah, our whole crew is going to be there.
Sweet. It's going to be fun.
Bring some cards for you to grade.
Perfect.
Just grade on site, like in the hotel room?
No, we have a 20 foot by 20 foot setup. So we have a 400 square foot setup at the show.
Wow.
And we'll have all of our graders there. We'll have our whole team running around. We'll have probably almost 20 people with us for that show. So, yep.
Well, guys,
it's Vegas. You got to go big.
If anybody's listening, well, if you're coming from Texas to Vegas, it's big on both ends. So, but if anybody's thinking, oh, these guys are just fly by night, you know, it's a couple guys in the basement watching Beavis and Butthead, and you know they're putting things in a top loader and telling you it's a 7. Clearly not the case. Go stop by Mid Collective and just see, you know, all of the assets these guys have, all the people they bring to bear. You know, guys who have probably been grading for quite some time, you know, expert graders. For sure. And, you know, take a look, you know, if you're watching this, take a look on eBay. You'll see DCI graded cards. They're on there. It's a pretty cool looking, I'll call it flip. It's a pretty cool looking, you know, label, black with the white and gold. You know, it's sealed in there, tamper proof. And, you know, the guys do a good job with what they're doing at an accessible price point. So come stop by and get some cards graded.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see more of them on like liquid auctions and whatnot and things like that as well. I think that's look out for that in 2022 and maybe get ahead of it and ship some cards in. Here's the most important question. People are flying into Dallas Card Show.
Yep.
Where should they stop for food?
For food, barbecue is obviously, so the two big things that we are, right? Barbecue and Tex-Mex. Those are the two things that you're going to go for. But if you're going to go to Dallas Card Show, there is one place that I got to give a shout out, and it's my guy Bane, who owns the restaurant that's right by the Dallas Card Show. It's called Two Rows, and you have to go there to get the honey pepper bacon. Phenomenal. It's like a candied bacon, best thing in the world. Probably give you a heart attack. And actually, it is an appetizer on their menu. So you just get this like thing full of bacon coming out like it's a bouquet of flowers. It's amazing.
Now, I may have to go to Dallas. So
Yeah.
in COVID,
I'm
this
buying
place
your
closed.
flight right now, Cage.
There was a restaurant a block away from my office in the city called Bar Bacon, and
Okay.
it closed
Yeah.
for COVID. And
Yep.
also, as an appetizer, they had chocolate-covered bacon. So
Perfect.
made bacon and then completely chocolate, like dark chocolate, which, Andrew's healthy. You told me that's healthy, so I'm allowed to
Yeah.
eat it. But I used to go in there and say, okay, I need 4 of the appetizer orders for my meal. I'll just tell the guy to start making it now in the back. Just chocolate
That's
bacon.
awesome.
You wouldn't think, Andrew, but it's a nice, like, sweet, savory combo. It's a good time. It's a good time. But yeah, man.
I'm not going to
little
give any
barbecues.
recommendations, but guys, we say this. If you listen to our show, you know this. I say make sure that you create an account on StarStock, on PWCC, on Alt, on Golden, on Heritage, because in this decentralized world, you want to get the education, the knowledge, and you want to get the feel and the pulse. Same thing with grading companies. We think about like all or nothing, and I understand as investors we're like that, but send 2 cards in, send 3 cards in, and see what the experience is like. Try a few different grading companies, because in this new landscape, you're going to really set yourself back if you don't actually have that experience. That's my ask of you guys. If you have some raw cards, base cards, or silvers that you're waiting for PSA to open, send 3 of them to DCI and see what the experience is like. See if you guys get them back in less than 14 days. See how the resale value is. I know I'm doing that myself with Desmond Bain. Shout out to Bain. Any final words before we cap it?
No, I mean, we'd love to see you guys follow us on social. Obviously, that's a big thing. So it's at either DCI or Dallas Card Investors, depending if you're on TikTok or you're on Instagram, Facebook. We do still have a Facebook group out there. I think there's almost 2,500 people in the Facebook group. So that's another good place to go to. But we'd love to see you try out. As you said, sign up for the companies. If you go to DallasCardInvestors.com, sign up for a membership there. It creates a membership portal. It's free. It doesn't cost you guys anything. So sign up, give it a shot. You can go ahead and start a submission in there. So there's a really well-built submission page and stuff like that to put in all your information. And then what we would like to see if we can get done, and we'll drop it at some point, we'll make sure that you tag you guys in it, is that we'll do some sort of a deal where you'll put in a coupon code based on if you watch this. And we'll use some sort of a term or something that we used in this episode. We'll run it back and we'll figure out something. And that'll be a special coupon code. So you'll have to watch this.
There you go. We'll plug it in. Mint Collective.
There we go.
Just in
Okay.
case you wanna
Cool.
use that down the road.
It'll be Mint Collective. And what we'll do is we will do, I don't know, grade 5 cards going free. Sure.
Woo!
We'll do that. So 20%, that'll be a 20% discount. So you'll be able to send in 6 for the price of 5.
Boom.
So I'll
There you
get
go.
our
Value. Look at these guys.
So
I've been saying the wrong date every single time, so I'm going to stop doing that. January 28th through 30th, Vegas. I'll see you guys there.
sounds
We're
good.
going to have people
Thanks,
in
guys.
Vegas, like every weekend in Vegas. Where's the Mint Collective?
Wait.
Let's go. 28th to the 30th.
If you've booked your flight and it was for the wrong date because of me, I'll buy you lunch in Vegas.
Ooh.
Then you're not getting your information from the right place.